Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to your Wednesday edition of the TraderMerlin Show. I apologize in advance. The guy is literally 8 feet from my window with an air gun nailing the second floor onto the house. So the next few weeks are going to be an ugly one for me and really annoying. I'll try to keep my cool and not yell out the window and scream at these guys. But anyway, I hope your markets did well for you today. Of course, with the after-hour session, Nvidia's earnings, which we will look at today, another fun, exciting one. Didn't see that one coming quite as big as Nvidia's jump there, but I'm going to get to that here in a little bit. I want to start off by going into the topic du jour. So I had a couple questions yesterday on this one, and then I got another follow-up on today. So I thought, you know what? I would like to just talk about this one. And it's called the Bud Light Brouhaha. So I had AI make me a chart of some falling beer prices and things looking kind of ugly. But this question goes to John. He says, thoughts on buying Anheuser-Busch stock? Not spelled correctly there. Do you think that the boycott will hurt the bottom line come earnings time? So this is not a discussion at all of, do you approve of Bud Light's actions? Do you think whatever they did was right? Nothing to do with that. Bottom line is it's taking a step back and saying, as consumers, how do we either voice our opinions, disgust, or enjoy what they've done, or put our money where our mouth is and find opportunities out there. And this was an interesting one because if you think about it, a lot of people around the world right now are boycotting Bud Light. And for those who may not know, I will real briefly explain what happened in a nutshell. They did a PR marketing campaign with the transgender influencer, and that caused a lot of uproar. You should think that Bud Light might have wanted to know their target audience just a little bit better than to run ads like that. But nonetheless, they did it, and of course, it's this part of this inclusion effort we have going on around the world right now, which, for better or for worse, that's a discussion for a different day. So Bud Light sales, and the statistics I pulled up from just been looking at stats out there show that they've had a 23% slide in sales going back to May 6th. Now, this is their flagship product. It's the biggest selling beer in the United States. It is a monstrosity of a seller. So let's go and look at Anheuser-Busch, which is going to be BUD. So you look at the share price here, and some of you might be looking at this going, well, it's still got room to go. I'm going to go from the peak back here on the 31st of March, which I will probably revise that. But just giving us a ballpark, Budweiser or Anheuser-Busch InBev is down around 14.7%, right? And that's really on the heels of this mass boycott. One of the funniest things I've seen are these like total cowboy redneck guys in their barns just taking out their AR-15s and shooting cases of Bud Light bottles. It's kind of comical, right? It didn't change the beer that you were drinking. Just finish the beer and buy a new product if you want to. So let me ask you this one to the viewers out there, and I know that there's a lengthy delay. If you look at what's going on, it's really one product, which is Bud Light, that really dropped the ball here with regards to target marketing and knowing their audience. And you're seeing the stock Bud is down 14.7%. How many of you think that would probably be a buy? Yes or no? So let's just put a yes or no that you think Anheuser-Busch would be a buy at these levels. Now, if we look technically, we're actually down below this most recent kind of, I'm not going to call this demand, but we'll just call it baseline, right around 57.92. If you look down here, go a little bit more to the origin of this gap, right around 56.51. All right, so I'm going to mark that one down on my paper because I think we're going to revisit 56.51. I will actually put a line right there, which will be the origin of the gap right there, right around that price there. So, Boss Poopa says, don't waste beer. I agree. Well, sometimes if you get like a pumpkin flavored beer, then waste that beer, right? Throw it right in the garbage. That's the best way. Tom says, nope, not a good time to buy. Larry says, boycotting. It would be a short, not yet. Hell no. No. Yes, around 54. But Target now on North Face ad, I think is just making fun of the whole thing, RG. I think that one's just making a joke of it all. Buy more when they shoot, yes, STFU, right? So here's my argument for this. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, going to probably shock most of you and be like, what? Merlin's on crack. I say it is, and here's why. If you look at Bud Light, it's one product. Now, yes, it is. It's 11%. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to make sure I get my numbers right here. Bud Light is 7% of the sales of AB InBev, right? That's 7% of the sales. So it's not even their best-selling product. Their best-selling product is actually Budweiser. Remember, that's globally. So InBev is the largest beer company in the world that owns Bud and Bud Light. It's based out of Belgium. It's not even American beer anymore, so that should already piss off a lot of the conservative rednecks, so they won't buy the beer because it's not made in America. Well, it's made here, just owned by the Belgians. They get good chocolate and good beer at the same time. So if Budweiser is 11%, I don't see people boycotting Budweiser. It's Bud Light specifically. So that's 7% of InBev's gross. Well, the stock is already down 14%. And you got to think about how many beers InBev owns. So just as a guess, right, because you guys know that InBev bought Budweiser years ago. They also merged with Miller. How many beer companies, products, does InBev have? Throw that number out there, guys. How many do you think? How many different products do you think InBev owns? Beer products, right? There's varying degrees of numbers. I went to, obviously, the internet to find out, but I went to their website, and it said, as I wait for a few seconds for you guys to type in, they have over 500 products. So my argument is, if you are boycotting Bud Light, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to go to Miller instead. Screw Bud Light. Well, Miller is owned by InBev. I'm going to go drink Corona instead. Well, Corona is owned by InBev. I'm going to go get Michelob or Modelo. It's owned by InBev. So the kind of thing is like, where the hell are you going to go? So yeah, Bud Light may lose some of its market share, but you're going to go buy beer anyway, right? You're going to go buy Coors Light, which is probably going to gain, I think Coors Light has gained 2% of its market share already. So there are over 500 different beers, according to AB InBev, that they own. So while this looks like a catastrophe for Anheuser-Busch, and you're thinking, short the hell out of it, right? And I would be doing the same thing until you peel back that curtain and you say, hell, there's 500 different beers that they own. One of them is getting kicked in the teeth right now, but that'll be temporary. It'll drop. Some people will permanently boycott Bud Light, but some people will come back to it, especially when you can go down to your local store and grab a case for like $5 when they do this monster sale to get those sales flowing again. So my argument would be, what is the volume on Budweiser? I'm not sure the volume, but according to their site and statistics, and I think this was back to 2020, 11% of InBev sales is Budweiser, 8% is Corona. I didn't even know that InBev owned Corona. 7% is Brahma, which is a Brazilian beer, which is huge down there, and 7% is Bud Light. So that's the top rankings there. But let me run through some beers you might recognize. Bud Light, obviously owned by AB InBev. Corona, AB InBev. Coors, owned by Coors. Miller, AB InBev. Michelob, AB InBev. Modelo, my personal favorite, light lager, owned by AB InBev. Budweiser, Stella, Voodoo. I don't know those last two, Stella or Voodoo, but the point I'm making here is, where are you going to go? You're probably going to end up buying an AB InBev product anyway, so your money that you're boycotting Bud Light for is just going to flow right back in unless you happen to pick something that they don't own. So, buy proper beer, i.e. craft beer, not dishwater beer. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm definitely, I would rather support a small microbrewery, but you know what? When you look at the list of beers, there are hundreds of small little microbreweries that AB InBev has actually bought as well. So you may be thinking that you're buying a craft beer, but you're actually buying something from AB InBev. They are a juggernaut out there. So I am going out and I'm saying, if you're thinking long term, I think that you're actually fine owning AB InBev. Does it go down some more? Yeah. But again, the sales will be impacted for Bud Light, but I think they're going to pick up for other brands because, let's be honest, most of you here didn't know that AB InBev owns all these different companies. Let's see, I actually had a Wikipedia up here so you could see some of the different brands. This is just their mergers. They do theme parks as well, but Miller, there was a great site that had tons and tons of the different beers that they own. So I quit drinking beer, too high in carbs. I'm with you, Joe. I do trivia every Thursday night, and that's usually my go-to. I'm more of a whiskey person, but I don't get how people love Bud Light. And so here's why they love Bud Light. And having spent many years in college, not many, but some years in college, you understand that you can't go out there and pound India Pale Ales or Guinness Stout all night long. What you need is a very light, refreshing beer that's cold and goes down quick and easy, and that's Coors Light, Bud Light. If you were broke like I was in college and you're looking at Keystone Light and Pabst Blue Ribbon, right? Those are like the cheapest beers you could get. Basically urine in a bottle frozen. So that's why people drink it. It's just simple. And also I think that Bud has done an amazing job over the years of creating this brand of we are the American heartland, right? We're Budweiser. If you're out there getting gritty, working on the farms, and you got to dig ditches, then we're Bud Light, right? That's kind of the, I guess, the mystique that they've had around them, which is why when they went with a transgender spokesperson and marketing with them, it's like, well, a lot of these people, they're totally opposed to that type of thing. So I know, it's kind of crazy. Will they change their box on the 4th of July? I'm not even going to go down that route. Who knows, Sharif? They're probably going to do something very drastic to change their marketing approach, but I would imagine they're going to keep the look and feel the same. So anyway, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, John. I'm just putting it out there as information. These are the facts. You're going to go to different companies. You're going to go to different beer. If you are one of those people that boycotts it, let's be honest, I don't care. If I want to drink a beer, I'll drink a beer. Now, I'm with the rest of the group here. I don't really like drinking Bud Light. I'm not really a Coors Light person. I like Modelo. I like the Mexican lager. So give me a Corona, give me a Modelo. But if I was one of those people that was outraged by this, which I'm not, I don't care. I got bigger things to worry about. Then I might go to Corona or Modelo. I just like those styles of beer. Well, they're both owned by AB InBev. So my money that would have gone to Bud Light is now going to go to their other products. So it's a net win for them. Just Bud itself would start to suffer here. So that's my main case. My main argument here. Pepsi Ribbon is an Ocean Beach favorite, usually in a paper sack. Yes, Big Eb. PBR, buddy. The gold ribbon, or the blue ribbon, right? Yeah, gotta love PBR. I can only drink so many of those. For example, there's a... Okay, so Saba says Yingling. Yingling's a great beer as well. Very light, but, you can't really get that. It's hard to find west of the Mississippi. Right, that's an East Coast beer, and it's big over there. Every time I go to the East Coast, I'm getting Yingling. I'm a big fan. So, yeah, we'll find something else, and I wouldn't be surprised to see who owns Yingling. Yingling. It's a tough one to say. Real quick, I'm just for giggles going to look at that one. And you spelled it right. Yuengling. Let's see. Yingling, and I will say who owns it. Just for curiosity, because I bet you it's probably owned by Budweiser or AB InBev, OWNS. Okay, it's still privately held, so it's not owned by a major company. It's still Yingling, which is awesome. Good for that. Stay private, although at some point they will probably sell. So I hope I shed a little bit of light onto this. It is interesting to see when we get these boycotts. Like right now, I saw earlier, I think Big Eb was talking about Target. Right, Target did some really bizarre stuff. Leave myself scratching my head sometimes at the moves that these companies make. And you understand what they're trying to do. They're finding that there's a growing segment of a population that either has this affiliation, this orientation, and they're trying to cater to that. But when 90% of your business comes from, the rural heartland of America, you probably don't want to be selling or pandering to those different demographics. So, unfortunately, it shot them in the foot. They'll take note of that one, and we'll learn about it as a case study in business school. But rather interesting. I personally think that it makes for a buying opportunity in AB InBev. Again, it's down 14%. Could it drop some more? Yes, it could. I may actually put my money where my mouth is, and I'll sell a bunch of puts on it and see if I can get some good premium, because I think people think this is going to go a lot lower over the course of time. I think you would all agree. Right now, it's fresh in everyone's minds, and all you hear about is boycott and people getting crazy on social media. If Budweiser discontinues that, stops it, and just goes back to their normal marketing, give it a year or two, and this will probably pass. Yes, you'll have some people that have permanently switched allegiances, and they're now drinking Coors Light or some other beer, but I think it'll be okay for the company overall. Oh, God, Joe. Old English 800? Whew. Mickey's Big Mouth, that was my favorite. I like the small grenades of Mickey's Big Mouth. That was a good one. The four daughters are taking it over, yeah. Oh, or taking over Yingling. Great. Awesome. I don't know Great Lake, but I know Yingling. I love that one. Local Brew in Phoenix, Four Peaks, was bought out by AB InBev years ago. You never know who owns what. Exactly, Glenn. It's crazy, because what happens is as soon as a beer gets popular, the big companies will buy it. For example, I am very fortunate. I've had some really cool work experiences in my life, and one of the work experiences that I had, which I kick myself because things would be very different if I just stayed there. But you guys might know a small brewing company called Lagunitas. Lagunitas started in a garage. and I worked in that garage. I worked in there on the bottling line before it had like 3 beers at the time. Their dog used to walk around the facility that actually was the dog there. You know, it was a long time ago. And of course, as Lagunitas got bigger and bigger and bigger and really made the IPA, Lagunitas IPA, like changed California beers. Before Lagunitas came out with their IPA, there really wasn't a big IPA trend in California. Now, for any of you who travel around the world, you go to Europe, you go to England, you don't find a lot of IPAs, which stands for India Pale Ale. And the reason for that is India Pale Ale, when they used to ship ales to India, they put a lot of extra hops as a preservative in the beer, and therefore it would allow it to stay fresh longer all the way over to India. So they called it India Pale Ale. Basically, all it is it's a pale ale that has extra hops, rather bitter, and Lagunitas took that and branded it, and all of a sudden now, when you come to California, remember this, anybody here that's not in California, when you do come here and you look at a beer menu at any bar or any restaurant in California, you'll see probably 50% of the beers are IPAs. That was because of Lagunitas. Anyway, years ago, Lagunitas sold to Heineken for $500 million. So, you know, Lagunitas sounds like a nice small little brewery now. They're massive and they're controlled by Heineken. So you never know who owns what. I used to work in the bottle. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I didn't get paid. So there was no checks that went out. Now, this is under the table stuff, so I hope nobody works for the IRS. I think I'm past the statute of limitations now anyway. But the payment we got was the cases of short-fill beers. So when you work on the assembly lines or the bottling lines, they were manual fills. It wasn't all automated like it was today. So we would be filling them manually with foot pedals, and some would be short pour, some would be tall. If it was below a certain amount, we would take them off the line, put them in a case, and we would drink those, and basically getting drunk on the job. So if you drank Lagunitas in the early 90s, you might have gotten some that were filled by me while I was intoxicated. So that was pretty fun. Anyway, long-winded story. You just never know who owns what, but I make the argument that it is a buy. And I think it's interesting because almost all of you said, no, not buying, it's going down, it's a short. Because I believe, and I'm not trying to sound condescending, but my belief is that you guys probably believe, or many of you believe, that Bud only has, you know, Bud Light, Bud Michelada, and a few products. Yeah, if that was the case, this would be devastating for Anheuser-Busch. This is why when I talk about my 1% strategy, you normally don't see me trade individual stocks in the 1% accounts that I do. What I'm doing is I'm using ETFs, which are totally diversified. So if one stock has a huge up or down move, it's not going to impact us that much. So you look at AB InBev, they're basically a beer ETF, right? You want to buy beer and be long beer for time, then you buy AB InBev. Ticker symbol is BUD. It's Anheuser-Busch InBev, largest beer company in the world. Anyway, yeah. We're going to get to that one, Big Yeah, but I want to finish this one in case anybody has any comments or questions. It's really interesting when you look at the facts behind this InBev thing. Anyway, are we good with that one? You guys want me to move on? I will move on if you like. You can find Stone. I like Stone. And by the way, if you have a friend who's a beer lover, the Stone Brewery it's by Carlsbad, somewhere inland a little bit. Beautiful place, really cool outside patio, and it's just a great little brewery to go to. So if you have somebody who's a beer lover, bring them there. Also, Lagunitas in Northern California is good, and one of my best friends runs a brewery, or he's a part owner in the brewery now, since he's no longer on the front ends. But it's called Hen House Brewing Company, and there's actually a movement that's going on right now, which is fresh beer. So the stuff you get from Coors, Miller, Bud, that's all been bottled months ago or kegged months ago and finally being shipped out. It's too big to have fresh. But Hen House Brewing Company, what they do is they send reps around to the stores, and if it's past, I want to say 30 days, they take that beer off the shelves and remove it. And I will tell you this, there's a huge difference between having a beer that was made within the last 30 days and something that was made 90 days ago. You can stack them side by side and clearly taste the difference between those beers. Freshness is a big, important piece. All right. I've been sober over 9 years, but really like Hogarten. Yeah, Hogarten's good. Yeah. And good for you. Sobriety's probably better and less expensive. But let me guess, Dave, you're like, but I drink a 12-pack of soda a day. We all have our vices. My husband works in a bar in Louisville. There's over 1,700 craft beers. What? How do you even store that many? 45 on top. There's an odd empty bottle of Budweiser there with a price tag of $660. Ooh. Weird. Okay, maybe just a classic one. Yeah, there's a bunch of breweries around here, or tap houses that have like 100 plus on tap. One thing when you go to these places, and your husband will probably say the same thing, Liz, is there's going to be certain taps out of those 45 he's got on tap. I know Yard House down here has like 110. There are certain ones that don't move. They don't sell. And what they'll do is they'll have a 6-pack special, taster 6-pack. And it's all the ones that they haven't sold. So they're just trying to get that product out. So keep that in mind. Trying to move that stuff that doesn't sell. It's filtering down what brands are AB InBev. They are suffering from the collateral damage as well. Certainly they are, but the average person fishing for dollars is not going out there and doing the research and creating a list going, okay, which beers do I like? Okay, no. Oh, that's not owned by AB InBev, right? The average person's not doing that. This is a knee-jerk reaction that says boycott Bud Light. So, yeah, there might be some permanent people who boycott AB InBev, but I think that's very, very far and few between. All right. Old Milwaukee? Oh, gosh. Best light that sets in a hot garage in Florida for 4 years. That's some drinking. Oh, good gosh. Believable direction. That's nasty. No, the point being, if you want a Budweiser, you're totally in the wrong place. Oh, okay. Got it. Yep. My brother-in-law brews beer and bottles fresh beer for local small brewers. Nice. And that's the best. The best is fresh. I go to a brewery down here, and their keg's probably 15 days, right? 15 days, and that keg is gone. So it's always really fresh, tasty beer, and you can definitely taste the difference. All right. I've been on this point for 22 minutes now. I'm going to switch over and go to, I want to real quickly revisit this one. This was Lordstown yesterday. Scott said, with the split to Lordstown, what happens to my 3,000 shares? I want to just follow up with that one just so you guys can see that. The ticker symbol was RIDE. Remember yesterday was like 20-something cents, I think. I forgot the exact price. They did their 15-to-1 reverse split today. So now it looks, Scott probably woke up this morning. Goodness gracious. I'm looking at a share price of $3.73 today. No, it's that way because of the reverse split, right? For every 15 shares you had, you now have one. So you now in your account, Scott, are going to have 200 shares at $3.73. Now, what will happen, everybody, is most likely, we'll revisit this one. I'll put a vertical line on it just so we can have a reference point to it. It sounds great. Oh, a split. Well, a normal split, a regular split, is positive for the stock. A reverse split just tells you that this ship is sinking and it can't get any closer to zero, so they jump it back up so it looks like it's got value. This will probably continue to drift lower. It's down 12.4% today alone, even though it had that reverse split, and is down 52 cents on the day. Very ugly. Stay away from RIDE. Anyway, I wanted to just touch on that one for you, Scott. Let's see. Linda had a good question. Unfortunately, I didn't mess with the font on this one. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. Linda said, what is the best to go find out about OPEC meetings? FinViz, I think what you meant to say. What's your forecast for Bitcoin? Do you still think it will drop to $10,000? So when you're looking for OPEC meetings, you can obviously go to the OPEC website. They're listed there. But most economic calendars have the high-profile dates for OPEC. So if you use Econo Day or you use Forex Factory, they will have the big days where you have you'll see the OPEC announcement or OPEC meetings. And that's just the major stuff. If one of those ministers is just giving a small presentation, it's really hard to find that info unless you're, going to the OPEC site and they have a calendar that alerts you to when all these guys are speaking. I generally am just looking at the big stuff that I would find on the major economic data sites. Now, with regards to Bitcoin, no, I don't think it's going to 10,000. And the main reason for that is my 4-year cycle that I have mapped out. And I think that based off of history, the last 3 cycles that have happened, the first year of that cycle is generally down between 77 and 87%, and we're already there. Now I think you're going to get sideways chop and consolidation and slight up for maybe about the next year. Then when we get the halving, meaning when Bitcoin splits in 2024, which will be right around May 1st of next year, it'll go slow for a second, and then probably about a month or 2 after the halving, it's going to go parabolic and go ballistic, and that's when I think my $250,000 price target will be met. So I think right now you're looking at just sideways consolidation. Expect a lot of volatility because of all the political stuff going on with it, but I think 10,000 for me personally now is off the table. If you look at the chart, if you were to ask me here, are we going to go to 10? I would have said probably, right? You guys can see why. We've just been making lower highs, lower lows, but we based for a while. We had this yellow box down at the bottom, and all of a sudden we broke out of that. Then we broke this next high, which is 21,000. And all of a sudden, we're starting to get a stair step up. So it's starting to look a lot better. We've got an uptrend intact. Granted, right now we're at some very difficult, a difficult spot. It was down 3% today to 26,225. So I don't think that 10,000 is going to happen. I think you'll probably see some, again, wild gyrations here for the next year till we get to May 1st of next year. What did Dave say? I used to live in a party house in my 20s, and anyone that didn't bring over beer used to get the bottom shelf. Yeah, there you go. I like that. I mean, you can't give them the top shelf. It's like you're not going to reach into my cooler and start taking my good, craft beers. You're getting the bad stuff that we forgot to put in the freezer or in the fridge for the last month. Yeah, I know where you're at. Big said, "Yep, agree, but Bitcoin now or soon, or be sorry forever." Yes, agree, but BTC now or soon. Oh, you mean buy? He said, but yeah, I'm with you, Big Ab. I think it's one of those things that we're still way early. We're way early on this one. And by the way, I didn't make an announcement for Bitcoin Pizza Day, but on Wednesday? On Monday was Bitcoin Pizza Day. I don't know if you guys know what Bitcoin Pizza Day is. Just for fun, I will tell you what Bitcoin Pizza Day is. So there was a guy named Laszlo, and I don't know his last name, but Laszlo was a computer programmer who apparently was mining Bitcoin and had a bunch of Bitcoin back in 2010. But back then, what do you do with it? There was no real exchange for Bitcoin. Nobody accepted it. It's not like I had an app back then. It was just so new that nobody really knew about it. So what he did is he went on some user group and advertised that, hey, I will pay 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. And somebody took him up on that offer and bought him 2 pizzas, brought him over, and Laszlo transferred over 10,000 Bitcoin. At the time, it was a deal for Laszlo because the stuff really didn't have a value. You couldn't exchange it anywhere. So it was really marks the first transaction made with Bitcoin, and that's the famous Pizza Day. Now, if you look at it, those 2 pizzas back then in 2010 probably cost, I don't know, $20, $30, $40 if we're really expensive and a lot of toppings. But to put it into perspective, how much do you guys think that that's worth today? Right? I will bring up a calculator here on this screen. And I'll show you because let's just say Bitcoin right now is trading at 26,225. Right? That's what it's at right now. Times that by 10,000. That's a $262 million pizza. So what I want to know, and it's funny because Big Tom just took the words right out of my mouth. Laszlo is famous, right? But what about the guy that delivered it? What did that guy do with those 10,000 Bitcoin? That is the question that nobody has been able to answer. I'm very curious to know. Somebody received those 10,000 Bitcoin. If that guy's still holding those today, I mean, can you imagine? I would be just driving myself nuts if I was Laszlo. I'm hoping that he kept some of it. But boy, $260 million worth. That would just blow my mind. Absolutely crazy. All right. Won't CBDC take the market share from Bitcoin? No. So, peasant ambition, that's a good point. If we do get a CBDC, which I believe we will, I would say I'm a 99%er that we're going to have a CBDC at some point in time. All that's going to do is it's going to replace the dollar, right? So that would be a digital dollar that is controlled by the U.S. government. Bitcoin will still be the outlaw. It's the one outside of government control. So that will actually probably drive more people to it. And I think what makes this special and why I think it actually would help Bitcoin if we had a CBDC is this. Once the dollar is digital and is now a tokenized instrument like Ethereum or Solana or Cardano or Pepe Coin, whatever, once it's a tokenized asset, I can now go to a digital exchange and instantly convert my digital dollars for Bitcoin. So people like me will probably start to buy more Bitcoin for it because it's outside of government control. Right now, if I want to convert physical fiat dollars to Bitcoin, how do you do it? I have to open an account at an exchange. So I have to go to some exchange. I have to connect it to my bank account, get those funds uploaded. I have to do KYC with Social Security, driver's license, thumbprint, firstborn child, all that stuff. And then I can convert over to Bitcoin. So I think with the CBDC, as Big Eb says, I think it's only going to make it stronger. It's going to increase people's wants and desires to get money outside of the prying eyes of your government. Because once we have a CBDC, they will see everything. And I mean everything. And limit. I mentioned this the other day. They could censor your transactions. They could literally censor it. So you want to go buy a gun from a gun store? They could block all transactions for guns if they wanted to. right? I'm not trying to freak out anybody who's got, worry about the Second Amendment, but I wonder if the Bitcoin pizza was a pineapple pizza. You want to know what kind it was? So I think it's actually better for Bitcoin down the road. I think it's actually going to make it more legitimate as a digital instrument and push more people to it because it's out of government control. All right, so that was that. And then let's see, I had one more here, which was, okay. So let's talk about this one. Craig, it's an interesting question. He says, Palantir at supply looks like a great shorting opportunity. So let's go look at Palantir, PLTR. So Palantir has had a phenomenal run. And if you look back at the article I wrote for Barcher, I think it was back in March. I think early March. It might have been the first one I wrote for them. I talk about embracing AI, looking at technology and saying, okay, how is this AI going to improve the bottom line for businesses? And what's interesting is in the last 2 months, I think you'd all agree that the conversation about AI utilization has become much more mainstream. I mean, even Bill Gates right now is saying that AI is going to just destroy companies like Amazon and Google and all that because we won't need all that infrastructure. You just have the code of AI. So kind of interesting for me to see how quickly people are running to investments in AI. Palantir is one of those companies, right? They're doing AI defense contract stuff. They were big with just defense, but now they're going outside of that. But a lot of what they're doing is artificial intelligence. So if we take Craig's question here at surface level and say, Palantir at supply, looks like a great shorting opportunity, I would add a couple comments here. The first one is, when you have a big gap up and it never filled the gap and just started to smoke to the upside, very positive, very bullish, but lots of emotion. I'll add volume on here, because you probably see that the volume is much more elevated as more and more people are trying to jump on Palantir because of their AI integration. Now, to your point about supply, sure, you could argue that you hit this overhead supply level that goes back to April of 2022. Fine, I'm with that. But I have to say, and I've mentioned this before, even with things like Nvidia, is I'm not shorting companies that have anything to do with AI right now. I wouldn't short Intuitive Surgical. No way. That's going to be a big one for them. I wouldn't short the company Path. It's called UPath, which are making automation systems built off of AI. So now assembly lines can be fully automated with AI, and you could just talk to the AI and will modify the product on the assembly line. Pretty crazy. Palantir, Nvidia. These are all at the forefront of AI right now. I wouldn't short any one of those, regardless of how attractive that pattern looked. It just, in my mind, I won't bring myself to do it. So personally, Craig, I wouldn't short Palantir. Does it look like there could be some downside? Absolutely. You have a huge jump in price over a very short window of time. All right, I'll map it out here. In just 13 trading sessions, it jumped 84%. Normally you would think there's gonna be a big pullback. Well, if AI does what I think it's going to do, which is going to remove a lot of workers from these companies that implement AI, the bottom line for those businesses is going to get better earnings and more. Let's see. Why the NASDAQ had such a big rally after hours? Oh, yeah. We'll get to that here in just a second. It was Nvidia. It's all about Nvidia after hours. Big F says Palo Alto hit a 52-week high today. Same industry as Palantir. Be careful of shorting either. Yep. I agree. You got to be real careful with shorting, even though, you hear a lot of negativity about the markets, and we're overbought and we're overextended and recession's coming. It sounds attractive, but find other opportunities that are more likely to go down based off of the supply and demand. Right now, it looks like it hit a supply level, but demand for Palantir and these AI companies is still very, very elevated. On that note, let's go look at Nvidia. Guys, I'm sure Larry is loving this one. And here's Nvidia. Now, you look at the price chart of Nvidia, and you're going, no big deal. Nothing really happened. Oh, really? Let me show you the after-hours session. Let's go 5 minutes. And we'll this is the regular. So, it was actually down on the day. It gapped down, traversed sideways. Going into earnings is always sketchy. And then, here is their earnings. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Notice how it's just compressed all of the trading day. The trading day now looks like a flat line. It's up 27% in the after-hour session. Monstrous move up for Nvidia. Even like myself tomorrow, normally when I see something like this, I'd be ready to go short and waiting to go short on Nvidia, but I don't think I'm gonna mess with it tomorrow. I may change my story by the time we do the show. Yeah. Oh, largest all-time high. So let me put a line right at now where the all-time high, or at the current price. So let's do the high for after hours. So that's that blue line. Let's go back to the daily here. Right, we're nowhere even close. So let's go month, let's go weekly, right? Just to show you where we're at. That is where that blue line, that top blue line, represents where it is right now in the after hour session. So Nvidia screaming. I know, popcorn trade of the day. That works. It's still a popcorn trade of the day, Pepe. It just means popcorn means it has just a lot of volatility or huge move. That's generally what I'm looking for, is a huge move. Lisa says Nvidia expects to greet Q2 as well. I wouldn't short. I wouldn't touch it either. I mean, when you see a chart that looks like this, your mind goes, I got to short that bad boy. Let's just go to a 15-minute chart. I mean, look at this. It's insane. This is going all the way back. It's moved in the last, in 1 hour, it moved more than it has in the last month combined. At 400, yeah, right now, let's see, the intraday high price is 388. 388, I think, is your high that we achieved. Let me zoom in just so we can get the actual high. The high is 394. Yeah, so just kissing that 400. 394 is what we got in the after hour session right here. Anyway, that's definitely a big part of why we're seeing this NASDAQ rip up here. There's your NASDAQ in the after hour session. So these numbers I'm going to be reading are going to be completely skewed because I'm going off the futures numbers, right, for the day. And there you go. This NASDAQ looking just great. It was actually pretty much down all day. It was down much more than this. And all of a sudden, the Nvidia earnings ripping this thing the upside. Still down on the day, though. So let me run through these. And we'll do our daily chart here. I'll take volume off of this and we'll wrap up. So there's the price action for today on the NASDAQ 100, but I'm going to start with Bitcoin. Yeah, Microsoft been rocking as well, but why? What did Microsoft do that's now causing them to rock even more? And I don't know if you guys have been using Bing or anything like that. They're incorporating ChatGPT. So they brought ChatGPT into their products and services. They're really doing a heavy push, and it's from the numbers. It sounds like a lot more people are starting to use that. So, AI integration going to be good for Microsoft's bottom line. So here is your Bitcoin price chart. Does not look great. I'm not happy about this one at all. Remember, my line in the sand was 26,666, and we were down below that by 440 points right now. So I don't feel great about this. I mean, I'd be fine if it does have a correction, just because I know I'm going to be holding long term, but obviously I want this to go up quickly. But that's your Bitcoin price chart, down 3.58% today. BARD is the Google one. I agree, Sava. Look, Microsoft has a history of creating a product and being almost ahead of its time, and then just destroying it. Remember they came out with something called a Zune. So the Zune MP3 player was a great little MP3 player, but they just dropped the ball. Apple took over, and the iPod took off, and that was the big thing. They bought ChatGPT. Great, I love it. I mean, ChatGPT is a fantastic feature. Now you'll see more and more AI integration, which is going to replace jobs at Microsoft. Bottom line. Let's see if hopefully they won't mess up ChatGPT. All right, Russell down 1.18%. Again, we're still just in that sideways range, but I've got the box inside of a box. So Tom, you weren't here. I didn't see you yesterday, but we have this big range on the Russell. Now it looks like we got a smaller one forming, so kind of a level on level. And NASDAQ 100 was down a lot more, but certainly the Nvidia news rallying it up and making it look nice. You're right now at 13,650. S&P, these aren't even in order. Nabbit. There you go. S&P down 0.79%. Nothing really technically. I mean, I guess you could argue that there was this sideways consolidation that went from about May 5th to about May 16th. And we kind of bounced back down to that, but the real challenge will be if we get below these lows that happen on May 4th, which is a low price on the S&P of about 4,062. That will be the challenge point. Gold on the day down ever so slightly. Same with silver. Not happy about that. Kind of want silver to rally here. And then crude oil continuing its 3-day rally, up 1.96% to 74.34 on the day. And that, my friends, will do it. I have been here. Okay, quite happy with my rut. Good. Awesome. Love it. For anything at work, I don't understand. ChatGPT explains it so well. Yeah, but Saba, it's one of those things you have to trust, but verify, right? I found little bugs with ChatGPT where the answer is not quite correct. Now, that's in my area of expertise, which is trading and financial markets. I saw a very interesting post about, what company was that? There was some company that said what usually takes them 9 months to do with code, they're a coding company, what takes them 9 months to do usually, using ChatGPT has taken them a week. So look at the efficiency improvements we're getting. So innovations and automation processes are going to start to become much, much faster, much more mainstream. I think it's going to be very, very interesting times for us. But again, the fallout from AI integration and the speeding up of development time means you don't need as many developers. So again, layoffs and stuff might be an issue here going forward. All right, I'm going to wrap up. I think I got it done. I didn't go through much of the earnings calendar and economic calendar, so let me bring that one up for you. Here's your earnings calendar for today, just so we can see what Nvidia did. They beat earnings by 18%, and they jumped. It's over 19% now. Let's refresh this bad boy. Yep, Thomasina, check, trust but verify. Look, Abercrombie & Fitch is up too, huge. Abercrombie & Fitch up 31%, Nvidia up 26%, so some big gainers out there in the retailer as well. Kohl's was up 7% on the day. American Eagle was down, so that down 17. That was today. Tomorrow on your earnings calendar, you have Aurora, but they've been Aurora and Canopy Growth have been trying to report for the last 3 weeks, so I'm going to forget about them. You have Restoration Hardware. Costco will be the big one for tomorrow, including Best Buy, Medtronic, Marvell Technology, and Ulta Beauty. And then for the Forex crowd out there, let me bring up your Forex calendar. Do I have that one on here? No. I don't know if you guys caught Janet Yellen's comments today, but she's saying if we don't raise this debt ceiling, we're going to have to make hard decisions on what we don't pay. And I'm like, oh, that was our topic yesterday, right? Or day before yesterday. I don't remember what day we talked about, but that debt ceiling issue is going to get pretty ugly if they don't raise it. So here is your economic calendar for today. On that, you didn't have too much other than crude oil inventories, but for tomorrow, let's go bring up the calendar here and show you tomorrow's action. I'm not as prepared as I usually am. A lot going on. Tomorrow we get our preliminary GDP number. They're expecting it to be 1.1%. That's going to be quarter over quarter, which should translate to about a 2.7% GDP year over year, which is not great. Hopefully it'll be a little bit higher than that, but right now that's the expectations come out 1.1 for your quarter over quarter GDP. For tomorrow as well, the U.S., you have pending home sales. That one I'm very interested in. You're hearing about shortages, housing shortages with regards to real estate market. That 30-year fixed rate mortgage today, by the way, jumped back above 7%. So let's go to the 10-year here. This brought our 30-year fixed rate mortgage back up over 7%. So that's going to put a pinch on the markets going forward. If this does continue to rally up here, as I expect it to do, as the talk of default increases, we could see 30-year fixed rate mortgages at 8% by the next month or so. So not great. I didn't read the Fed minutes. I don't think they said much. I can't imagine they would say too much at this point. They kind of like, now's the time to just kind of shut up, be quiet. And let's see, economic calendar for manana. We did that. Pending home sales for the U.S. You have unemployment claims and GDP, and that's pretty much your big stuff out there for tomorrow. There. That's it. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for me for today. Happy Wednesday. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll keep an eye on that Anheuser-Busch one. I'll let you know tomorrow. I'm going to take a look at AB InBev and see. I might actually sell a bunch of puts on at lower prices because I think in the long haul, I think we'll be okay with that one. And you're basically, like I say, buying a giant beer ETF. And yeah, Bud Light did something real silly, didn't know their target audience and got crushed for it. But that's one component of that ETF. It's not an ETF, but it just acts like one. Therefore, I think there's some good opportunity there. Anyway, that will do it for me for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you tomorrow. If you got some topics you want to discuss, put them down below any of the YouTube videos. Leave me any comments you want, or you can email me at TraderMerlin@gmail.com. That said, I'm off for a nice long walk with the dog, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.